Live look right now, Southern California, as the flames firing up again. So how is FEMA in the new Trump administration planning to take over from here? We are taking you live to the White House in a moment, asking the Trump administration just that. And a live look right now, Hidalgo, Texas tonight, as the White House says 1,500 troops are heading to the southern border.
The American people have been waiting for such a time as this, for our Department of Defense to actually take Homeland Security seriously. This is a #1 priority of the American people.
Plus, the commander-in-chief with a big threat for Vladimir Putin. President Trump saying it is time to make a deal to end the war in Ukraine, or else tariffs are coming the Kremlin's way. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. We begin tonight once again with our Nancy Liu, who is on the ground in Southern California. Nancy, in front of the camera for us. For reference point, Nancy, you're about an hour north of the Pacific Palisades in the town of Castaic. What's the scene like there with what you're seeing?
Yeah, we're on Lake Hughes Road in Castaic and near the point of origin of the Hughes fire, thus the name, but I'm going to get out of the way so you can see a major hotspot going right now in this canyon. We've seen some air attack going on. A helicopter came by just a short time ago, but this is a canyon that feeds right into Castaic Lake, which is right next to the community of Castaic. And Blake, there are up to 20,000 people who live in that city. All have been ordered to evacuate. They were ordered to evacuate immediately. And you can, here comes one of the big DC-10s. Those can drop about 9,000 gallons of flame retardant. So obviously they're putting down a line, trying to prevent the flames from going further and closer to the city of Castaic. So we are near this active fire scene up near the point of origin of the Hughes fire. We've seen hand crews as well. I don't know if you can see them in the brush, but there are specialized crews who have hiked up to the flames to attack them from the ground as well. So quite an impressive firefight here, Blake.
Nancy,
and obviously, there have been many in the past 2 weeks.
As I mentioned, you're about 40 miles, give or take, at least a drive from Pacific Palisades to where you are right now. Any sense of how this happened so far away, or is it completely irrelevant and just shows the conditions of what it's like right now in Southern California?
It's kind of all of the above. I mean, it is so dry where there's no humidity. The cause of this fire, nobody, it's going to have to be investigated. But conditions were ripe for another wildfire, and that's why we have been under a red flag warning for days now. And the winds, you can see it's quite windy out here. They're picking up through the night. And this red flag condition does not end until tomorrow night.
Wow.
So this could get worse way before it improves. But there's another water drop right now to our right. I don't know if you can see that, Blake, but this fire scene, it's huge. This grew to over 5,000 acres in less than 2 hours. So just an extraordinary firefight going. And you can see the winds picking up. Hanging on to my hat. It could be another long night here in Los Angeles. Blake?
Hey, Nancy, real quick, the winds now compared to what you experienced a week ago, what's the difference?
Well, they died down. And that's the thing with the Santa Anas. They kick up, and then they die down. They swoosh around every which way because of these canyons.
Right.
The winds are not supposed to be as bad as the beginning of the Palisades fire, but just, 40 miles an hour, that's enough to do a lot of damage, pick up embers and spread them around and start new fires.
Absolutely. Nancy Liu, thank you, reporting live for us there in the town of Castaic. We will be back to Nancy and the pictures throughout the hour in Southern California as we continue to watch what's happening there. Some 5,000 acres already burned. All right, meantime, live look right now. Back here in Washington at Capitol Hill is tonight the first piece of legislation set to head to President Trump's desk, the House passing the Laken Riley Act, with all Republicans present for the vote supporting, along with 46 Democrats. The Laken Riley Act, as you might know, named after the Georgia college student killed by an illegal immigrant. It mandates the Department of Homeland Security detain illegal immigrants who have been arrested for burglary, theft, larceny, or shoplifting. Now, 12 Democrats in the Senate voted for the bill, and now 13 Democratic senators are asking their Republican colleagues to come to the table and work together on a bipartisan immigration and border security plan. Here with me now is the Republican senator from the state of Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullin. Nice to see you, sir.
Good to be on your show, brother.
Yep, thanks. Nice to always have you here. So I can look at this a couple ways. 12 Democrats in the Senate voting for the Laken Riley Act, 46 in the House.
Right.
But then that also leaves about 75% or so on the other side. Do you believe that you're seeing progress, that Democrats are moving your way, or is this sort of the ceiling as you see it?
I wouldn't say that they're moving our way. What you saw was the 13 Democrats and a lot of the 46 Democrats in the House, 13 senators, 46 House representatives. They come from states, the overwhelming of them came from states that President Trump won, and they're up for re-election. And not all 13 of them, but 11 of the 13 are. And in the House, every one of them come from states that President Trump won. So what you're seeing is they're playing politics with it. If this is something they really wanted to get done, you
don't give them any benefit of the doubt?
I really don't.
Why?
Because this is a senseless act that could have been taken care of. It was foreseeable 2 years ago. Miss Riley should be alive today if they were serious about it. But then just go back and say this bill was presented when Chuck Schumer had control of the Senate. If these 13 individuals wanted it done at the time, they could have pushed Chuck Schumer to bring it forth, but it was never going to be signed by Joe Biden. The timing is perfect. You know, I tell people all the time, the policy is right, but timing is more important on Capitol Hill than the policy. And underneath Joe Biden's administration, the timing was never going to be right. Underneath Trump administration, it's going to be his first bill to sign into law.
So let's go to timing for a second, because today the Trump White House, the Trump administration says 1,500 troops to the southern border. The message coming out of the White House today is do not come from the southern border and try to come into the United States. I'm looking at Oklahoma. You've got 19,000 active duty service members, 47,000 military personnel. Do you want people from your state, military members from your state, headed down to the southern border?
I can tell you right now, our National Guard are chomping at the bit to help secure our southern border. The governor has already made this very clear. He's going to help the president however he needs to. And I don't know one single service member that I know of personally that isn't willing to go down there and help. Everybody in the country, except those that just left the White House, knew that our border was a national security risk. And you can see it in our cities, you can see it in our states. The idea that President Trump is now doing something about it gives them real hope. And the fact just yesterday.
Do you think 1,500 is the right number? Is this just the start? Like, is it going to get higher?
I don't know what the actual number is. I think the president is just putting his arms around it. What's unfortunate is that Kristi Noem, who was the governor of South Dakota, a former member of Congress, and needs to be confirmed. You had the Democrats just playing games with her. She's going to get the votes. She's going to be the Secretary of Homeland Security, and they know she's going to pass, but they're still playing games with us and not allowing us to put the right people in place so we can make sure that the American people are safe at home.
So let me ask you about confirmation votes, because you were at the forefront of getting Pete Hegseth through the committee and onto the Senate floor. The Hill is reporting tonight he could get a full vote in the upcoming days. Here was one of the moments, you know about it, from just last week's confirmation hearing.
How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down?
There are new allegations against Pete Hegseth. Do you believe that he is going to get the at least 50 votes among Republicans to be the next secretary?
Absolutely. And the allegations that came out...
You know that for a fact, that he's going to get the 50?
He'll be confirmed.
Okay.
He could be confirmed as soon as Thursday night. But even these new allegations that supposedly came out, right? Who they're talking about is his second wife, and his second wife has been on record and signed an affidavit saying it absolutely never happened. So it's like, Why are you coming out with these baseless claims still yet? Once again, this is like with Kavanaugh. The Democrats are doing a character assassination on someone that they don't like, and that's what they're doing with Pete Hegseth. And I think it's because they fear him, because why? He doesn't fit the mold that Washington, D.C. says you have to be in a certain position. As President Trump has a mandate by the American people, they want a different government. They want a government that's working for the people, not working for a party. And underneath the Biden administration, the government was working for the Democrat Party.
Any Republicans, do you expect any Republicans will vote against him?
You know, there could be a couple. I'm not willing to name. You could have up to 3.
Do you know of a couple?
You know, I know 3 that's not at a hard yes yet, but that doesn't mean they're not going to vote there. That just means they're doing their due diligence on consent and on the consent part of it, and at the same time, I think they're trying to get to yes. They're not trying to get to no, they're trying to get to yes. They've got to make their own vote. Every senator's got to make their own vote. Either way, he has 50 hard yeses, and JD, if has to, he'll be the deciding vote to put him in office.
As you walked into the studio here, let's show those live pictures out in Southern California. You and I were both watching this together as this latest fire has spread there. The president, the Speaker of the House have talked about conditions to a federal aid package there. You come from Oklahoma. You know this better than I do, sir. 152 tornadoes in your state last year. That was a record 30 alone in November. Conditions were never stipulated to any of that, to any of the recovery process. Are you comfortable coming from a state where you've seen your fair share, saying, you know what, now's the time to say, if you want federal aid, you must do fill in the blank?
What we shouldn't be doing is putting the taxpayers on the hook for negligence. And California has been negligent on managing their forest. President Trump 9 years ago was with Governor Newsom and told him, this is a kennel box. This is a disaster waiting to happen. Anyone had been to California. I was in California in 2020 and 21 because of some medical reasons with my son that I spent a tremendous amount of time there. I drove through these same mountains all the time, going back and forth to different doctor's appointments. And you could tell that there was a huge risk that was going on. I have a pretty large ranch. We do forest management constantly on our place. We burn certain sections every single year just to make sure we're managing the forest correctly. And they know this. They've seen it happening. What we're saying is if we're going to give you disaster relief, there has to be some stipulations that we're not going to keep bailing you out, because what we're doing now is we're asking the taxpayers in Oklahoma to bail out California for their lack of management and putting the wrong people in leadership positions.
Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, got to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Appreciate
being
it.
with us here on the Hill. Still to come, we are taking you live to the White House on the other side of the break. Alina Habba, counselor to President Trump, joins us live. Plus, live from the southern border as the Pentagon is preparing to send those 1,500 active duty troops. Our Allie Bradley, what has she seen in the last 3 days? She'll tell us. And we continue to keep our eyes on the latest wildfire there. 19,000 people evacuated in Castaic, 5,000 acres burned. This was going at the rate of 20 football fields a minute at one point in time earlier today. I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill. We're back in 4. To The Hill on NewsNation. Live look, Los Angeles County, California, where another wildfire is burning this afternoon out in California. The Hughes Fire, more than 5,000 acres now. At one point, it was burning roughly 30 acres a minute. More than 40,000 acres have burned across Southern California since the first wildfire on January 7th. On his first day in office, President Trump signed an executive order to reroute more water from Northern California to other parts of the state. The president expected to visit Los Angeles Friday, Asheville, North Carolina as well, to survey the wildfire damage in California and the after effects there in North Carolina from the storms. Joining me now is Alina Habba. She is a counselor to President Trump. Joins us live from the North Lawn here on NewsNation here on the Hill. Alina, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we know this started a couple weeks ago. We know Gavin Newsom is the Democratic governor of Los Angeles, run by Democrats. We all know that. But the reality is, as we watch the latest fire, that President Trump now controls the federal government. His FEMA agency will be the one overseeing this going forward. What changes, if any, will folks in California notice going forward?
Well, first of all, there has to be management. He said that. He's already issued an emergency with health officials. Obviously, he's going to take care of the fires. But more importantly, he's going out there, something President Biden failed to do. He never went out. You saw it with North Carolina. He barely cared about it. It's been forgotten, but not by the Trump administration. He's going to go out there. He's going to get on the ground and find out what's going on, what they need, what supplies they need. He's obviously already done executive orders to make sure that we have what we need in place to take care of it and create an emergency situation, which is effectively what's happened because of Gavin Newsom's complete and utter negligence.
Has
That's
he
really
spoken
all
with
that
Gavin
you can
Newsom
say
yet?
about that. I don't know. I have not spoken to the president about Gavin Newsom. We're focused on helping the people, not him.
Let me move on to immigration now, because the message coming out of the southern border from the White House today is clear. If you're trying to get into this country through the southern border, and you shouldn't be, do not come. And the president and the Pentagon today announced some 1,500 troops moving down to the southern border. Does the White House view this as a permanent assignment, Alina, for these military personnel down there at the border?
I don't think, look, it's what we need at this moment. You know, I can't tell you what's going to happen in the future. I can tell you that we have a lot of work to clean up because we've effectively had no door to our home for many, many years. And not only have we had no door to our home, we've incentivized people to come into our home and take our things. And that door has now closed and been locked. And that is the truth. And that's what needed to happen. So I know Tom Homan is incredible. He's focused on it. I spoke with him today. We are going to take whatever measures we need to get America safe again. We are for immigration, but the right way. So, you know, until we clean up the crime, until we take care of the children that are being trafficked, until we take care of the damage, the fentanyl, all the things that are a result of this, our economic problems that are a result of these open borders, until we take care of that, I do see it being something that will exist.
Will exist. Okay, and CBS is reporting tonight, Alina, that there could be up to 10,000 troops. Is this sort of the first phase? Could it reach that number at this point in time or at some point in the future?
Well, I don't know what the exact number is, but I'll tell you this. If you look at the numbers of how many people came into our country, I wouldn't be surprised if it was that many. It's whatever it takes to undo the damage that has happened. We have to clean up. We have violent criminals coming in through our border for 4 years. Millions and millions. And that's just what they reported. So Tom Homan is looking at this, working with the president to make sure that we are going to get them out and get them out quickly. And yes, the message is clear. You cannot come into our country by walking across the border, getting a credit card for $10,000 and living in our hotels in New York, et cetera. Those days are now gone. You know, we've been taking a lot of actions, frankly. This is just one of them, but it's a big one and it's important.
Want to ask you about a couple things that President Trump set out on the campaign trail as candidate Trump, and look forward here for a moment. He talked to Alina about the possibility of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We've seen the president come right out the gate with a host of executive orders and actions, but we haven't heard about that. Is that going to be coming from President Trump at some point?
Obviously, the president is backing that whole area in Bitcoin. We've seen that. You know, I attended the Bitcoin ball actually on Friday evening here in Washington. It was something else. Look, he's looking at the future and the economics of this country and what the best way to secure it is. I'm sure you'll hear something about that. I don't think it will be today, but you sit tight. And I will say this one thing. It's going to be President Trump that makes those announcements. It won't be me. It will not be Caroline Leavitt. It will be him, because he is deciding what he will do when he wants to do it. And that's very unlike the last administration. We don't have puppets here. We have somebody who's actually working, and that's the President of the United States, and he's going to be speaking to all of his executive orders and taking questions, much like we've seen the last 2 days.
Alina, last one. The issue of drones. The president had said that a report would be coming. We covered it from the jump here on NewsNation, as you know. And he put this in the hands of Susie Wiles just the other day when he was asked about it. Do you have a sense of when that report is coming, and should we expect declassification?
I will tell you this. I am from New Jersey. Those drones were over my home. No one is going to forget about the drones.
We'll leave it there. Alina Hava, counselor to the president, joining us live here on NewsNation. Appreciate the time, Alina. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. All right, still much more ahead here on the Hill. The U.S. military, as you heard there, about to send thousands of troops to the border. We speak with one lawmaker from Texas whose district is on the border. What is he seeing? Plus, another wildfire out in L.A., new evacuations there, the latest when The Hill returns. All right, welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. Live look right now at a new wildfire that broke out earlier today in Los Angeles County, the Hughes Fire near Castaic. Fast moving. Red flag warning has been extended through Friday in that area. Our Nancy Liu just arrived on scene there in Southern California and shares what she is seeing and feeling with the winds. Nancy?
And Blake, the wind gusts, they're definitely picking up. And I want to show you right off, there is a new flare-up right near us. That we saw flames there about 10, 15 feet high just seconds ago, but there is a hand crew up there as well. So they are attacking this from the ground, and soon it's likely that we'll see another airdrop from one of the helicopters, a precision drop. But there you can see the flames flaring up again right near where that hand crew is. So definitely a dynamic situation out here with these winds kicking up those flames and fanning them. The winds seem to be blowing kind of southeast right now, and that's unfortunate because that is towards the city of Castaic, which has a population of 19,000. All have been ordered to evacuate. And Blake, this fire now impacts both LA and Ventura counties. This is a big one, and it's obviously spreading fast, and the explosive growth of it at the start is very concerning because, Blake, the winds are only going to pick up tonight.
Nancy Liu, live for us in Castaic at this moment. Nancy, thank you. Live look right now over at the White House back here in Washington, and some movement inside that building today. The three Republicans who won their House seats in districts where Kamala Harris beat President Trump, well, they received Oval Office time with the president. Congressman Don Bacon, Brian Fitzpatrick, Mike Lawler among the select group of lawmakers with the president on day 3. The commander-in-chief with two big announcements today in a social media post. He threatened Russia with tariffs and taxes if a deal is not struck soon to end the war in Ukraine. And a live look tonight at Hidalgo, Texas, as the president announced 1,500 U.S. troops will be heading to the southern border. His press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, addressing the media from the North Lawn.
The American people have been waiting for such a time as this, for our Department of Defense to actually take Homeland Security seriously. This is a #1 priority of the American people.
Our Allie Bradley, live tonight in Del Rio, Texas, with what she's hearing on the ground there. Allie?
Yeah, hey, Blake. So it's important to distinguish that the troops that are coming down are active military troops that are being deployed, because right now we have had National Guard under the Department of Defense down here by the thousands for years. In 2018, Trump deployed about 4,000 troops under Operation Guardian Support. Biden reduced that to 2,500 and then kind of re-upped it when the surge was out of control. So we're still hovering around 3,000 to 4,000 soldiers down here. But again, National Guard is not considered active duty. So there's that nuance there. But the agents that I talked to, some of them are saying, hey, more eyes down here on the border, the better. We need more support down here. So they're welcoming it. But those are only a few of the agents. The vast majority of them, Blake, are kind of skeptical about these troops coming down. And here's why. Because over the last 4 years, the National Guard has actually been something that has almost been an issue for Border Patrol and Texas DPS, namely in the state of Texas, because they can't put hands on migrants. So we actually reported 3 different cases of National Guard soldiers caught smuggling. So the agents are saying they're getting involved in smuggling, they're blowing our operations, they're falling asleep in the vehicles, they're not helping. So unless they can be on the ground doing what we're doing with Immigration Authority, they're going to be useless. I talked to Victor Avila, he's former HSI, and he said Trump needs to give them some kind of immigration authority, Blake, because right now they're just going to be standing there as a deterrent.
Our Allie Bradley, live for us along the southern border. Once again, Allie, thank you. Also tonight, our partners at The Hill are reporting, quote, Democratic infighting is rising as Trump takes center stage. Democrats battling over their strategies, including on immigration policy after the results of the November 2024 election. Joining me now is the Democratic congressman from Texas, Henry Cuellar. His district is located along the southern border in Laredo. Congressman, thanks for being back with us tonight here on the Hill. Of course, one of the big news items today in Washington, the Lake and Riley Act passed in the House. It passed in the Senate on Inauguration Day. It'll be the first piece of legislation that President Trump signs. Only 46 Democrats in the House supported it. You are one of them, Congressman. Of the 13 Democrats in Texas, only 2 supported it. Did they get it wrong?
And I think I was the only Democrat in the House that co-sponsored the legislation also. Look, everybody has to do what they need to do, but I can tell you this. Some people have called this anti-immigrant. I don't call this bill anti-immigrant. I call it anti-criminal, because who can stand up and support criminals, that is aliens that have broken the law? So to me, it's a very easy, a no-brainer type of legislation. And that is, if you break the law, then we're going to deport you.
Here's your colleague, Congressman Greg Caesar, another Democrat from Texas. Here's sort of his justification for voting against.
The bills you just described don't do anything to make people safer or to fix our immigration system. And so our goal as a progressive caucus is to recognize that many of these Republican bills are intended to divide the American people and to try to put frontline Democratic members in a difficult place.
Do you think they learned the lesson from the 2024 election, one of them?
Well, again, you have to ask them that question. I don't want to speak for any other Democrat, but I can speak for myself. Look, of course, if you deport or detain and then deport people, aliens that have broken the law, of course you're going to make the community safer. And that's the purpose of this legislation, is to make sure that we detain, and then we deport aliens that have broken the law. My father was born in Guerrero, Tamaulipas. He became a legal resident, then a naturalized citizen. He was here and he followed the law. And we got to just make sure that if somebody comes over as, quote, as a guest, they got to follow the law.
President Trump today, 1,500 troops to the southern border. The White House says the message is do not come if you should not be coming. Is that the correct move? And is that the correct message as you see it from the Trump administration?
Well, look, I've supported the military under different administrations, under the Obama administration, Jay Johnson, under the Trump administration, the first one. And I certainly will support this one also. I sit on defense appropriations, and I also sit on homeland appropriations. So I understand they can provide this type of assistance. But your reporter right before said something very interesting, Allie. I just had lunch with the Border Patrol unions at the Capitol today. Okay. And what we need to focus, we'll of course, allow or welcome the military, but they are limited as to what they can do. I'd rather hire Border Patrol agents.
So you are supportive of this move or not?
I am. Okay. I've said I've supported this under Obama. I supported this under Trump. I support them. But keep in mind that they are limited as to what they can do. They don't have enforcement power, but they can do. I don't want them to be sitting in cars or vehicles. I don't want them to be there with the joysticks on the cameras. I want them to do things that they can provide. They can provide surveillance. They can provide helicopter assistance. They can provide certain temporary barriers. There's a lot of things. We just got to make sure that we use the military the right way, because it's very expensive to have them down there. I'd rather hire the Border Patrol agents. And as you know, we have a problem trying to hire them. We put money for 22,000 new Border Patrol agents, and we have not been able to hire that amount yet.
All right. We'll leave it there. Congressman Henry Cuellar, his district right there on the southern border. Many communities are live with us tonight here on the Hill. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Of course, with me now, Julia Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill, and Chris Steyerwalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute as well. Hello to you both. Thank you for being here. The Lake and Riley Act kind of shows where Democrats are right now. There's some movement, but it's like only from 20% of the party, give or take.
Well, there's some movement, and I think Republicans have been able to somewhat split Democrats, obviously, in the House and the Senate. 46 Democrats voting in the House, 12 in the Senate. But what's so interesting, if you look in the Senate, Blake, is that a number of the Democrats who voted for the Laken-Riley Act are up for re-election in 2026. Jeanne Shaheen, Gary Peters, Catherine Cortez Masto, et cetera. So it shows that this has been a successful issue for Republicans to campaign on. Democrats trying to figure out which side of the issue to get on. Henry Cuellar is interesting because he's a very conservative Democrat, has gotten the ire of progressives, but I think you're starting to see some movement within the party. Still some resistance, but movement.
President Trump moves the troops to the border. Chris, he's about to sign the Laken-Riley Act, probably in the upcoming days, whenever it can get to his desk. Where does the president go from here?
The ultimate win for Donald Trump would look like being the president who could deliver comprehensive immigration reform, right? There is not enough that he can do by executive fiat. There is not enough that he can do. If Trump's focus, as we are told that it is on greatness and legacy, and that he wants to do this stuff, this is, I won't call it cosmetic, but this is a gesture, right? This is, we're sending some troops down there. Okay. We're taking it seriously. And by the way, the actions that he's taken in regard to remain in Mexico and other things will be consequential. Yeah. No doubt. But the legacy play here is hammering out the deal. And Trump is uniquely positioned to be the one, because inside the Republican Party, Donald Trump conquered the Republican Party by getting to the right of everyone on the issue of immigration, right? He got to the right of everybody on immigration, and everybody who thought that they were pretty far out there, he said, no, I'll take it one step further. Okay. So Donald Trump now is in the situation where if he wished to be, he could define what the boundaries of a reasonable compromise were and get a deal done.
All right, both of you. I'll see you both on the other side of the break. Fantastic. Still much more ahead here on The Hill. More backlash. Did you see this? After the National Prayer Service bishop preaches for Trump to, quote, have mercy, she just went on TV. Trump is demanding something else. Plus, the latest on the president's upcoming trip to L.A. as a new wildfire breaks out. Full panel, other side.
This is a great show. This is a great network to have on.
NewsNation is built different.
I stopped watching cable news years ago. I found you and I found NewsNation. You brought me back to watching cable news again.
Cuomo, weeknights at 8/7 Central, only on NewsNation.
To counter the narrative that is so divisive and polarizing, and in which real people are being harmed.
Welcome back. That's the bishop who came under criticism for lecturing President Trump and Vice President Vance at the National Prayer Service Tuesday. It was the last of the inauguration ceremonies. Bishop Marianne Edgar Budd did not apologize for her sermon, where she urged the president and vice president to have mercy on members of the LGBTQ community and immigrants. It even, at the time, got a reaction from Vice President Vance.
There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. The people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meatpacking plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
President Trump asking for an apology, slamming the bishop today, saying in part, quote, she brought her church into the world of politics and in a very ungracious way. He went on to say she failed to mention the large number of illegal migrants that came into our country and killed people. Full panel here with me now. Brad Howard is a Democratic strategist. Julia Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill. Chris Stirewalt, host of The Hill Sunday. And T.W. Arrighi, former communications aide to Senator Lindsey Graham. Hello to you all. Thanks to have you all in. When does this end? How should this end?
Look, it's really unclear. First of all, I want to start with the bishop. It's really not a surprise that she's taken this route. She has done this over and over again during the first Trump administration. She's spoken at the DNC. We know where she stands. Episcopalians in general do tend to lean more to the left. There is this question, though, of whether you bring politics to the pulpit. And that's where this has gotten, I think, pretty messy. It's sort of...
Pretty messy is one way to put it.
Messy.
Yeah.
It's created a bit of a firestorm.
Right.
Now you have the president involved. It's hard to say when it's going to end, but it's just created, I think, what many people would say is an unnecessary scenario.
She's gone on TV today and...
the president complained about her bringing, her politics into the church into the politics.
Right.
They brought the politics into the church. So this naturally was...
How so? It was an inauguration.
No, but I'm saying like they did it in a church. It was in a cathedral. So like you want to be mindful of the setting we're in. This is that weird moment of the blend of church and politics. As much as we try to separate it, you can't. And I'll say this as a person of faith myself, all she's asking is to have mercy on them, to understand what's going on, that they are people too, and yes, there's going to be repercussions for breaking the law, but to do it in a way that shows mercy and alliance with the Christian faith.
It's a tradition for presidents to go to the National Cathedral and pray for our nation and the future of their presidency. She decided in what I called yesterday, an incredibly vain manner, to talk about an issue of fear among the LGBTQ community, yet Donald Trump put a gay man ahead of the Treasury Department. She talks about people being fearful who are immigrants when Donald Trump was talking about taking illegal immigrants who committed violent crimes and have overstayed deportation orders and removing them. How about all the people who've been hurt and killed, raped by illegal immigrants? How about care for them? And then she has all these TV interviews today. Were they prearranged? I'd like to know that. I wish the Trump team vetted this more. But vanity is a deadly sin. And as much as there's a time and place for all criticism, that was wrong, and she did it to inflate herself, while those messages could have been in a different form.
Oh, there was a time where if you did that in front of the sovereign of your country, you might get burned at the stake. The blessing of a separate church and state in America is not that. It prevents theocracy. We're hardly we're hardly in danger of theocracy in the United States in 2025. But what it does is keeps the government out of matters of faith. Right. And I cherish in my church and cherish everywhere when people of faith render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. And focus on the other thing. I'm Team Augustine over here. There's a city of God and there's a city of man. All love to my Aquinian brothers and sisters out there, but keep them.
So I want to add real quick too, like just because as an LGBTQ person myself, just because they put someone in the administration does not excuse all of the terrible policies that he's proposing that denigrate and discriminate against transgender Americans. And if it starts there, where does it end is a big concern for people like me and everyone in the LGBT community.
Totally understood that. Again, my biggest criticism is, and I totally agree with you on the separation, but that was meant to be a unifying event, to pray for the president and to pray for our country, and she used it as a political platform.
Meantime, live looks, Southern California, where tonight the Hughes Fire, you're going to get to know that name. It's now burned more than 8,000 acres. It's a wildfire located about an hour north of the Pacific Palisades. An air quality alert has been issued for parts of Ventura County due to the Hughes Fire. It comes just 2 days before President Trump is set to visit California. And we are hearing TW Republicans. I just had Markwayne Mullin, Republican senator from Oklahoma, on this set. Republicans are comfortable with the idea of putting conditions to federal aid. Why should anybody be comfortable with that?
Well, I would separate two issues here. I think there is obviously a management question that we can talk to when the fires stop burning. Forest fire management, water management, the like, those are not new issues. Donald Trump's been talking about them forever. I think the number one priority for everybody is to make sure these fires get out and people stay safe. We can talk about the aid when it's done.
That sounds like a punt.
It is
that sounds like a punt.
It is not a punt, but I know how much things change on Capitol Hill.
I would like to caution the American people, as someone who represented and worked for the city of New Orleans, of the dangers of infusing toxicity of politics into disaster relief. We saw how that blocked aid and relief and recovery efforts in New Orleans. People died because of the delayed response. I agree with you, TW. The point is get federal aid and support and let them rebuild and save lives and worry about these policy implications later. To get in this habit of tying politics to disaster aid is a recipe for disaster, as we saw in Katrina.
Donald Trump to North Carolina and California on Friday.
It's a big opportunity for him, particularly with California. He's going to meet with Gavin Newsom, obviously a huge critic of his. We've seen the two of them go back and forth. I think it's an opportunity for the both of them.
They enjoy it.
Yeah. It's going to be probably an opportunity for a Real Housewives style fight where they'll say bad things about each other.
They both know it, though.
The Hughes fire, again, breaking out just about a couple hours ago. At this point in time, 8,000 acres. At one point, this was burning about 20 football fields per minute. Other side of the break, our coverage continues here on News Nation. Leland Vittert, host of On Balance, with me. News Nation, you can see the smoke there only growing in Castaic, California. That's about an hour north of the Pacific Palisades. For context, about 40 miles or so. The latest wildfire there, now some 8,000 acres. At one point earlier today, it was about 350 acres, then just jumped to 5,000, now up to 8,000. For a little bit of context, at one point today, this was burning at the rate of about 20 football fields per minute. Leland Vittert, host of On Balance, joins me live. Leland, among the many realities here, the wildfire started in early January when Joe Biden was the president. That state's still run by Democrats. Los Angeles still run by Democrats. But for President Trump, it's now his FEMA, and it's his federal government, and they're going to have to deal with the response going forward.
Well, and the aftermath. He's going out there on Friday. A couple of things. One, the response has been so much quicker to this one, right? Because they had all of the resources there. We already saw the big air tankers in the air, and it's very different. Not to discount it, but at this time during the Palisades fire, we were watching neighborhoods burn.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're watching hills with trees burn. Yep. So there's a difference here. Obviously, something to keep an eye on. It's one of those things that after watching those such searing images from 2 weeks ago, you kind of can't help but have a lump in your throat. So we'll be watching it.